This is Michael Popok, and this is Legal AF After Dark. Week 1 of the E Jean Carroll case in New York is in the books. Why did Donald Trump get scolded and upbraided by the judge? What is Alina Habba doing in front of a jury? What is the jury's reaction to Alina Habba's screw-ups and her attempts to attack E Jean Carroll and basically tell the jury in her opening that E Jean Carroll asked for it when it came to rape because it would increase her celebrity and sell books? I'm not making it up, but we dive into it. We give you what you need to know. One place right here. Don't change that channel. MeidasTouch Network, Legal AF. Here's a clip from an episode, Ben, Meiselas, and me.
So, Popok, season 1, was it horror? Was it comedy? Was it drama? Was it? I guess we'll get into it all. I mean, I think
genre. It was horror comedy. It's hard to pull off, but it was bad.
I just think it was a cringy reality show where people are basically put like in a deserted island and then have to fend for themselves and realize that they don't have the underlying skills to do so.
Hunger Games. He's the one that was taken out. Hunger Games. That one that was taken out in the first second. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. Exactly. Well, look, we've talked about Joe Tacopina before, Donald Trump's trial lawyer in the previous E Jean Carroll case where Donald Trump was found liable for rape by a jury, sexual abuse, but the judge has made clear that there's a technical variation in New York, but it's the same thing as rape and defamation. E Jean Carroll was awarded back in May $5 million. Donald Trump is appealing that. And by the way, Judge Kaplan and E Jean Carroll's lawyers, Roberta Kaplan, no relation to Judge Kaplan, both had complimented, though, Joe Tacopina's trial skills. Joe Tacopina is a former prosecutor and was known as a pretty good trial lawyer, but not Alina Habba. We'll get there in a moment. But Joe Tacopina was never going to be the lawyer on this E Jean Carroll defamation trial. He was only on the other E Jean Carroll case, the appeal, and Tacopina was also the criminal defense lawyer in the Manhattan District Attorney case, which is still set for trial right now in March 25th. And we're going to, I'm sure, be talking more about that case in future Legal AFs if the March trial date in the Washington, D.C. federal criminal case appears that's going to get pushed back. But no surprises on that one getting pushed back based upon the appeal. But Tacopina also withdrew from the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case. So lots of people were saying, was Tacopina leaving because of a delay tactic? And I very quickly said, no, there's no delay. It wouldn't make sense that there would be a delay tactic because delay what? I mean, the Manhattan District Attorney criminal case isn't going to be delayed. Donald Trump has other representation like Susan Nicholas there. And Tacopina was not the lawyer on this case involving Donald Trump brought by E Jean Carroll. So it wouldn't delay this trial. But we now have, I'll get your take on Tacopina leaving, Popok, and then I'll let you jump right into day 3 or 3 days in the books in the E Jean Carroll defamation trial. There were so many procedural mistakes by Alina Habba even before trial began, not asserting affirmative defenses, not disclosing experts on time, not challenging E Jean Carroll's experts on time, Donald Trump claiming that he wants to turn over, bring the dress into the other case, but never turning over the DNA, sample on time. Heck, Popok, even why this case, I think this should just be addressed quickly before tossing it to you, why this case is in federal court. E Jean Carroll actually filed it in state court originally, and Donald Trump made the decision to remove it to federal court based on first, a federal jurisdictional claim that the United States government should be substituted in instead of Donald Trump, and that failed. And then Trump, basically became a resident of Florida. So there's something called diversity jurisdiction, where a claim is more than $75,000 and the parties are from different states. It goes to federal court. But Trump made that initial decision to bring the case to federal court to get the judge who he's now whining about. So I wanted to give that background, but talk to us about Tacopina leaving, and Popok, jump right into Alina Habba's mistakes. What'd you think of E Jean Carroll's testimony on direct exam? What did you think of the openings? And where do we go next week where Trump claims he's going to testify, which he always does and usually backs out? But what do you think will happen there? Break it all down for us.
Yeah, I'll do it in reverse. This 9-person jury is going to rule for E Jean Carroll for many reasons. When all the lawyers stop talking and the jury's able to deliberate, they're going to award her a large sum of money, probably $10 million or north of $10 million, whatever Robbie Kaplan asked for. I think they're going to award her for a number of reasons. One, as you alluded to, E Jean Carroll, as she did in the first trial, is a heroine, is courageous, is a rape victim who tells her authentic story in a way that only she can. And sometimes it's tearful. Sometimes she has maintained a sense of humor, which is remarkable, given what has happened to her, both being defamed, doxxed, attacked, the vitriol that's been directed her way, the rhetoric that's been directed her way. She's 80 years old. She had a career that was quite successful in New York as a gossip columnist and as an editor for Elle magazine, and it's all in shreds because of an encounter she had with Donald Trump and her writing about it in an article, and then Donald Trump going off and not only defaming her both while he was president and after he was president. This whole case is only about punitive damages, but as the judges said in a prior order about a week ago, just before the trial, this case at its heart is about a rape of E Jean Carroll. And he's, while he has gagged Donald Trump appropriately, blocked him from putting on any evidence to deny that he raped her, he is allowing, because he said to Donald Trump when they were trying to preclude, for instance, the Access Hollywood tape from being played again, well, what relevancy does it have? Here, it's punitive damages. The judge says, this case at heart is about a person who was raped, and we're not going to be able to get away from that. We're not going to get away from that. The jury is also, not only because of the facts and the law, are completely on the side of E Jean Carroll in a way that I haven't seen in most cases. I mean, there's really not two sides here. There's truth, there's facts, and then there's whatever Donald Trump and his lawyers are doing on the other side, which has nothing to do with any of that. And then the juries, and you and I have worked with juries a lot in our careers, and I feel very protective over juries and the jury process. I cannot help but think that they have been insulted by Alina Habba. They've been insulted by Donald Trump in the courtroom, which is the worst place to be insulting a jury before they deliberate. We, as practitioners, rightfully criticize what we observe for our audience as being poor trial skills. And you and I will talk about it at length on this particular segment of it. And I want to put up something about her website, because if you looked at Alina Habba's website, you'd never hire her for a case like this based on her own representations of what she thinks her skills are. But when a jury sees the split screen of a skilled, professional, sober, serious set of lawyers on the E Jean Carroll side, led by Robbie Kaplan, Sean Crowley, and the others, and they see Alina Habba and her eye rolling, her frustration, the judge lecturing her about how to comport herself in court, how to be respectful in court. Don't call the judge sir. 32 years, I never called a judge sir. It's either your honor or judge, and it's usually your honor. Stand when the judge, you address the judge. Stand when the jury enters the room. And these are basics. You learn this in moot court competition your first or second year in law school. And either she's doing it on purpose in order to get under the skin of Judge Kaplan, which is one theory, or she just doesn't know any better. But all that's doing for the jury is, because that's all they have to do during the day from 9 to 4:30 is watch this television show. And they come away with thoughts and beliefs, and they're being insulted. And I think they feel they're being insulted by Alina Habba, who's not respecting their time and their commitment to their civic duty to render a decision here. When you show up for your job and you're not prepared, it pisses off the other people in the room who have showed up for their job. That's one. Secondly, the acting out by Donald Trump, which started at the beginning of the jury selection, where he in front of the jury while they were still being selected, was jokey. Was the wrong level of hilarity about a solemn process related to a rape victim. You know, when the judge says to everybody, when he's trying to slim the herd a little bit and get down to the group of jurors to be finally selected, and he said, who here thinks that Donald Trump, for instance, has been unfairly prosecuted or is cases have been brought against him? And a couple people in the jury veneer raised their hand, and Donald Trump raised his hand. Ha ha. And the judge says, yeah, we know where you sit. Put your hand down. But that only pisses off the jury, and him speaking loudly so that the jury can hear and criticizing E Jean Carroll, his rape victim. It's not my opinion that she's a rape victim. This is a 6-person jury already ruled that she was raped by Donald Trump, as has the judge. And the judge has reminded the jury that day one when he instructed the jury about what this case was about. And so for him, in this federal case with a rape victim against him, right, trying to get her justice, for him to make jokes or to criticize her, well, now she's got her memory back. Oh, this is all lies. These are lies, in ways that the jury can hear it, right? You know, good on Shane Crowley and Robbie Kaplan for calling that out. But the jury gets pissed off and annoyed at that because it looks like he is disrespecting in a misogynist way the victim of his rape again. And so, you know, I don't know what I'll leave it on this, and then I'll touch on Takapina just for 1 second. You've heard me say this before, Ben, off camera and hot takes. Donald Trump knows he's going to lose this case. He's just getting his money's worth. He knows he's going to stroke a check for 10 or 15 million to go along with the 5 million he's already has to pay her. And he just thinks, you know, this, you can't pay for this kind of publicity in his MAGA world. In his MAGA world, him fighting with the judge, right? No, you don't have patience, or I know you want me to exclude you from this trial, Mr. Trump, because you can't control yourself. No, you can't control yourself. I mean, that's just playing to another audience that has nothing to do with this courtroom. And he's going to get his money's worth and his pound of flesh on the way out, even if it means trampling over E Jean Carroll's rights, and even if it means amping up the jury to stroke a big check. Takapina, as I joke, just got behind a blast shelter because he knew this case was going to go south quick. We knew he was going to be gone. Even I know in December, Trump made a comment about, oh, Joe should have let me testify. That's bullshit. Donald Trump was never going to testify. Joe Takapina told the judge that I have no control over my client in the first trial. I'm sorry, Judge. You know who I represent. And that was not a decision made by Joe Takapina. It was either Boris Epshteyn and or Donald Trump made the decision for him not to testify, as if being in the courtroom is any better for him, which it isn't the way he performs. So Takapina, who didn't do well, even though he knows what he's doing in a courtroom, he did not do well in how he cross-examined E Jean Carroll, and I think the jury made him pay for that, and some other strategic decisions. But he came into that case 90 days before the trial. The 2 years prior to that were all the screw-ups that you touched on, Ben, that Alina Habba had done in the first trial. The DNA evidence issue about the coat dress for E Jean Carroll excluded because of Alina Habba. Experts excluded because of Alina Habba. You know, the choice of venue, as you said, federal versus state, Alina Habba. And so he's left with this 4-person shop in Bedminster, New Jersey. That's all that's willing to represent him in matters like this. And I'll leave it on this. When you look at Alina Habba's own website, she has a description of what she does for a living. First of all, they say they do insurance defense work. And insurance defense work means you do anything from slip and fall to products liability cases for insurance companies at very low hourly rates. And that kind of keeps your lights on. But it's not a firm you would go to represent somebody like this in a matter like this. And more particularly, here's Alina Habba's description of her own trial skills from her own bio. So you think she wrote it. This must be the best that she's got, right? Okay, here's what she wrote. Alina Habba is currently the managing partner of that law firm. Alina has experience in many areas of litigation, including but not limited to corporate litigation, commercial litigation, family law, and construction-related matters. And then she gives an example. She says she served as lead counsel for numerous newsworthy cases, including a federal class action suit against a New Jersey nursing home accused of various negligent acts, including storing 17 bodies in a storage room during COVID. Okay. A civil lawsuit against a municipality for permitting the systematic rape, she says systemic rape, of numerous children perpetrated by a town employee. And she lists that case. It's ironic. And most recently, Trump versus Mary Trump and the New York Times, where she and her client just got sanctioned $500,000 because they shouldn't have brought that case under New York's anti-SLAPP statute, which was amended because of Donald Trump. That's the best that she's got. So are we surprised? And Donald Trump doesn't care. I'm going to leave it on that. Donald Trump doesn't care who's representing him in these trials. He just wants a good news show for him when he's campaigning in New Hampshire, Iowa, and on Super Tuesday. That's it.
Look, Alina Habba's gotten paid close to $3 million from Donald Trump's PACs. One of the reasons Trump doesn't care, it ain't coming out of his pocket. He's going to the MAGA people asking for money and then giving it over to Alina Habba. Also, Alina Habba, in addition to her fees for about $3 million, you mentioned the New York Times case where I guess she had this idea, well, if we don't sue the New York Times for defamation, but we call it tortious interference with contractual relations with Mary Trump and Mary Trump's deal, then we can get around New York's law that basically says these types of suits are subject to an anti-SLAPP statute and can be sanctionable. And very quickly, with New York Times, with good lawyers, they've said, look, Your Honor, she's trying to just do an end run around New York statute by calling her case something else, but her case is clearly within the purview of the law that says this is an improper type of case to bring against a media company. And there, Alina Habba was sanctioned in the form of attorney's fees, or Trump was, under New York's anti-SLAPP statute for pursuing a kind of patently frivolous case. And that was about $500,000. And she was sanctioned in the other case before Judge Don Middlebrooks in the Southern District of Florida, about $1 million for bringing a patently frivolous RICO case against Hillary Clinton and dozens of other defendants who all brought a sanctions motion, and it was granted. And then Alina Habba gave a speech basically bragging about being sanctioned before one of these right-wing groups called Turning Point. I just want to get a little granular with what went down in the went down in the trial, in the E Jean Carroll defamation trial. So opening statements took place. Alina Habba's opening, she said that E Jean Carroll got what she wanted. Donald Trump gave her fame. She's more famous than ever. She should be happy that Donald Trump did what he did to her. Words to that effect. And the other thing Alina Habba said is that E Jean Carroll was under a duty to mitigate her damages and go out there and try to somehow reduce the harm that Donald Trump caused her. And when E Jean Carroll gave interviews with places, and one of the places that was actually mentioned in the trial was MeidasTouch, amongst New York Times and others, was part of this case, that E Jean Carroll was exacerbating her damages and not mitigating her damages, was one of the arguments that was made there. The lawyers for E Jean Carroll argued in their opening statements, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as jury selection was taking place, Donald Trump was posting about E Jean Carroll and further defaming her. And 22 times while you were all being selected, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Donald Trump was posting over and over and over again about E Jean Carroll. And throughout the trial, Donald Trump's posted close to 60 or 70 times about E Jean Carroll over and over and over again. He gave a press conference after one of the days of trial where he further defamed E Jean Carroll. And so that's becoming real-time evidence in the trial. I've never even seen that before, where a case is taking place and the defendant is literally generating the evidence against them in real time. Post, I want to show you this document. And E Jean Carroll's lawyers just showing what Donald Trump is doing. And their opening theme was, how much money is it going to take to make him stop? And you're going to have to assess that in punitive damages to make him stop tormenting his rape victim. Then you had E Jean Carroll take the stand, a very kind of worksmanlike direct exam by E Jean Carroll's lawyers, with Sean Crowley, who just kind of walked her through, and E Jean Carroll, basically explained how everything was taken away from her. And then even after she prevailed in the first trial, Donald Trump further defamed her. Then Alina Habba would just start like reading from paper and like not even exhibits. And that's when the court would be like, what are you reading from? It's like, what are you doing, Ms. Habba? Is that an exhibit? And Alina Habba's like, I'm trying to get it in. And the judge would be like, what do you mean? What are you trying to get in? Like, What are you even talking about, Miss Haba? I'm trying to get this document. Well, show it to the witness. Ask the witness if she recognizes the document, and then we can see if we can publish it before the jury. Have you seen this document? And then the judge would say, Miss Haba, what document number is this? What are you talking about? Miss Haba, did you pre-mark your exhibits? Because we need an exhibit. We need exhibit numbers in federal trials. And then Alina Haba would be like, no. And then the judge would say, all right, let's take a break. Miss Haba, please refresh your recollection on how to introduce evidence in a federal trial. We'll come back here at 3:30 or whatever it was. And that happened multiple times. Also, Alina Haba would do that thing that, I think Judge Ngoran, who's a great judge, would just, and because that was also a bench trial, not a jury trial, the New York Attorney General civil fraud case, would let Alina Haba just kind of go on and on and on and kind of argue, but, and just say things even after a ruling was made. But here you would have Judge Lewis Kaplan say, Miss Haba, sit down. When I make a ruling that's final, you don't keep on talking. What part of sit down do you not understand? Sit down right now. And Alina Haba would say things like, well, I don't appreciate you talking to me like that. No one talks about it. Sit down. And the judge would say it like that. And that's what would, and then she would sit down and Alina Haba would go, objection, objection. And the judge would say, in federal court, when you make an objection in my courtroom and all courtroom, you stand up, you address the court, and you say objection.
Well, one bit of clarification. All courts. I mean, we keep saying federal court, but every court you got to mark your exhibits. Every court you have to stand up for the judge. Every court you have to make proper objections. They might be a little bit different, but I know why you're emphasizing federal court, because this is now the major leagues of court process, and she's failing miserably.
Yeah, I mean, look, sometimes state court arbitrations, are a little bit loosey goosey, and I've had situations where a state court judge, but yes, you should, as practice, always stand up, conduct yourself in a way that reflects respect for the court.
Well, if you like lawyers talking about things, the intersection of law, politics, and justice, where they know what they're talking about, you've come to the right place. MeidasTouch and Legal AF. Yes, the title is exactly what you think. We do it Wednesdays and Saturdays just like that. Times 4 or 5, we curate a show for you at the intersection of law, politics, and justice. And we bring it to you Wednesdays. It's me and Karen Friedman Agnifilo. Saturdays, me and my co-founder, Ben Meiselas. And then on hot takes like this one, about every hour, one place, the MeidasTouch Network. So until my next hot take, until my next Legal AF, this is Michael Popok reporting.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.